rage, violence. Angels and demons, my friends. Imperceptible. Now, it's fascinating. I love in the Constantine film with Keanu Reeves, he explains that heaven and hell are all around us all the time. And that when you go to heaven, everything looks the same, but it becomes heavenly in hell because they're almost like different dimensions all around us. The New York Post goes on. Included in the tranche published Friday were videos of bizarre-looking objects taken in the skies over Greece, Iraq, Japan, the UAE over the decades. Also released were a trove of intel reports and FBI case files that included apparent eyewitness testimony and public reports about possible sightings over the years, some of which came with a note admitting that information had already partially been made public. The files also...
Yeah, and a lot of this stuff has been made public, and that's why this is going to be frustrating. What they have made newly public, newly available, what the release has included are like the personal letters and the notes from various government officials who, because of their capacity at the time that they wrote these things, the materials, the diaries, the letters, whatever, were hidden away. They weren't filed away because they were about UFOs, but they're filed away because they're protected documents in their official capacity and position in their office. Like the director of the FBI writing a letter saying, "I'm inquiring to know about any of the flying saucers and things that you might know about them. Please let me know. Please get back to me and let me know if any of your agents in the Air Force have seen any of these things." Or the Air Force general, an admiral, something like this, and a general writing saying, "Hey, we need to know if any of the FBI agents have reported seeing authentic UFOs, because if so, that means our Air Force needs work." Those letters are what we're seeing. We are not getting actual photos of UFOs that are not admitted to be retouched. They're telling you, hey, we're going to edit some of these photos, and then we're going to release the AI edit and hope that you don't necessarily notice it's not real. That's what we're getting out of these releases.
Also include a transcript of Apollo 17 astronauts reporting very bright particles or fragments of something that go drifting by as we maneuver. It looks like the 4th of July out of the window. They're very jagged, angular fragments that are tumbling. Take a look at this, a composite sketch of an actual site photo with FBI lab-rendered graphic overlay depicting corroborating...
So lab-rendered graphic overlay of a digital sketch. And people are going to think, oh, look at this.
Eyewitness reports from September 2023 of an apparent ellipsoid bronze metallic object hovering over a field. I've talked to you guys about the O'Hare airport incident. Now, I know most of you know this, many of you don't, but I'm going to pull up this O'Hare UFO photo. This one, I think, should be talked about more. Now, there are a lot of fake photographs, of course, but this is a real photo, and I want to show you this. And I can only say this. I don't know. I wasn't there. But I worked at O'Hare just before this. This is the O'Hare incident was in 2006, in November. I believe I left in August of 2006. I worked at O'Hare Airport for 2 years. From 2004 to 2006, I believe the years were from 18 to 20. I worked for American Eagle Airlines, which is American Airlines' regional airline. So if you were to walk out of the break room into, so it's at terminals, right? It's a big, long strip with all these planes around it. On one side, when you look over, you would see American Airlines. And so we had a job at the airport called, I think there was Go-Get and Locals, what they were called. Go-Get. Complicated name. It would be go get the bags from the American Airlines flights that are being transferred to the regional flight or vice versa. Locals was when you were transferring bags from a regional flight to a regional flight. One saw this and he snapped a picture of it. What was it? This UFO hovered above the C terminal? The C concourse, which is just United Airlines, literally next to where I used to work. I wasn't there, but I know a lot of people who did work that I knew them for years. A friend of mine who got the job at the same time as me from my neighborhood said that people were getting out of their cars on Manheim Road outside the airport and just staring up at this thing that hovered for a minute or two and then shot straight up to the clouds and punched a hole. And they said it was a weather phenomenon. They say this United ramp worker first spotted around 4:30, but others quickly spied the craft as well. They described it as dark gray, between 6 and 24 feet in diameter. Chicago Tribune reported sightings a few weeks later, interviewing staff at the airport. One employee was so emotionally shaken, he experienced some religious issues. Indeed, they were actually warning the flight control, like, hey guys, what's going on? Like, what the funny thing is, a lot of people see this and they freak out. A religious experience. I think I'd be more like one of the guys going, we got an obstruction. So apparently there were people who were flight safety, like, I don't know or care what it is. Planes can crash with things like this. Because you got to understand, you can build a balloon with a little motor on it that looks like a UFO. And so for people who see this and immediately say, I don't understand what that is, they might freak out. But a rational person will say, regardless of what it is, we have a protocol for safety.
That right there is maybe the bigger point to take away today in all of the different files, in all of the letters and inquiries in the government agencies, the different department heads, writing to each other, calling each other, asking for proof. Do you have proof? Do they have proof? We've heard they have bodies. Do you have a photo of the proof? Do you actually see it? Or is it just, hearsay? They're all trying to figure out from one another in a giant mess of telephone where the original call came from, where the original story and reports are coming from, if they're actually credible and authentic or not. Even Tim is saying he didn't see it. He doesn't know anyone that saw it, but he talked to people who live nearby who said, yeah, there were people who got out of their cars and stared up at it. So he has been made to believe in this story in part because of a game of telephone where a story has been told to another person, and because of its wondrousness and awesomeness and almost inconceivability, it's unbelievable. It's then believed and passed on and passed on. It's like such a myth that it becomes believable. Now, I'm not saying it's not true. I'm sure the entire thing happened. But watch as the guy who was not there tells his audience of millions to swear by this story. He's pointing to it because it's like, look, this happened in my hometown. So it has to be true when other people claim it happened around the world. And whether or not it is happening doesn't change why or whether we should question if they're lying when they say it is. So in these documents, when they say certain things like, at one crash site, there was melted sand, some ordinary sand, not radioactive, but giving off ammonia gas, small silver nuggets, almost pure, except for sand mixed in, not radioactive, melted into or around the sand, which gives off an ammonia odor, little droplets of silver melted into the sand and some other grayish color. And so they're going to try to set these little, seed these stories, these little rumors, if you want to call it that way, a report. It's a federal report. Look at how many times that one had been stamped too. Goodness me. Lots of different stamps that make it look like it's a real legit live memory or a library book that's been checked out a bunch. This is a real true event, surely, because the feds wrote it down. They even have typos because it's clearly a memorandum that someone else went home and wrote down. The FBI agent that day went and talked to some people. That's what this is. It's a teletype from 1947, the report of two people, one that was a Dow Chemical physicist walking on Dow Chemical property, and the other his wife. So some of this stuff they're going to release and make you feel like it's credible, because when you add it all up, it paints this giant picture that's just been hiding in plain sight, and Tim Pool will believe it because one of those little data points they're giving you is this story from Chicago from years ago. They have a grainy photo they said a pilot took. Do they have the name of the pilot? Do they have his quotes? Do they have him saying what happened? Or is it conceivable that the government wants to tell you that they are dealing with aliens already so they can come up with a few pictures of these UFOs, and whether they're real or organic or authentic photos or not, whether the events are claimed are real or not, they're trying to drip you truth through a series of fake events. A lot like other things that we see the government do.
This is from allthat'sinteresting.com. This is workers also expressed frustration that government officials would not conduct a more thorough investigation of the incident. The FAA dismissed the sighting as a weather phenomenon, but those who were there that day stood by what they saw. I tend to be scientific by nature. I don't understand why aliens would hover over a busy airport, but I know that what I saw, what a lot of other people saw, stood out very clearly and was definitely not an Earth aircraft. Or it's just advanced tech they're not telling you about, and it was made in a laboratory. It's something that occurs when Dr. Mark Hammergren said the incident could have been a hole punch cloud. It's something that occurs when a propeller or jet airplane passes through when you have a uniform cloud cover. The temperature is right near the freezing point. They make liquid water droplets freeze in a hazy disk of ice crystals, descends from a hole, and it looks like a perfect hole punched in the cloud. Still, others felt the government should have taken the event more seriously. Mark Roediger, director at UFO Studies, Center for UFO Studies, says, it's an unknown object over O'Hare. It's been seen by official personnel and does United or FAA take it seriously? Of course not. They have zero interest because UFOs can't exist. But how can you not worry about something hovering over an airport after 9/11? It doesn't make sense. The incident remains unsolved. I agree. It was
So people who aren't working there, who aren't related to it, who are just reading the headline and seeing a grainy photo and panicking, it's like the Chicken Little syndrome. Whether or not it's true, it doesn't matter. You don't have enough information to panic over. You got a headline and a grainy photo. And then it's a digitally enhanced, retouched photo with high contrast. And then they've colored this in. It's almost, okay, well, how many different photos and levels of Photoshop do you need before you go, okay, I don't know if that's a true story or not, but Tim Pool is putting this into his, 30-minute video to show you that. Maybe it's longer than that. Okay, let me jump to the part that I actually wanted to show you, where he's talking about chickens, because this was the part that I agreed with and thought was interesting.
strange off in the distance. People are like, you can't see stars or whatever. And it's like, you've got these strange blue lights. And then...
oh, also, by the way, this is inside a film studio where they filmed the moon landing. One of many different instances in which they're filming in this set. And in one, you can see, hey, look, some of the lighting is, you can see it's being reflected off of the rippling in the background. So you're not supposed to be able to see any reflective light in the back. But a light bulb either above or somewhere in the foreground is being reflected off of the background here. And he's going to call this an actual source of light. He says this is a source of light.
This is where it gets real crazy. Some of the images released, this is a photo from Apollo 12, and there's these strange, off in the distance, people are like, you can't see stars or whatever, and it's like, you've got these strange blue lights. And then we've got this here, strange dots in the sky over the moon. And let's see if they have some other photos, I think. Check this out. They zoomed in, and you can see some specks. This is where it's interesting. What is this one? 1969. They caught these strange lights. Now, the funny thing is, the people who believe we never went to the moon are like, that's just studio lighting, and they made a mistake. No, that's not studio lighting. I'd say what makes more sense.
Have you never seen what it looks like when there's a light behind the camera being seen in the reflection of something? Hey, look at the screen of that TV. Here, we'll do this. This will look real funny and obvious. Hey, look at the screen on the TV. Does it look totally black? Or can you see just a little bit of some kind of reflection because there's a lamp on over there? But Tim doesn't quite get that. And so it doesn't matter how many little reflections you can see off of an imperfection on a curtain or a paint job or both.
Sense is like reflections from internal lights or lights behind them or something like that. Not studio lighting, but you know, you ever like take a picture with your camera in a window and the flash goes off and then the picture is just the reflection because the light hit the thing, you know, things like that. However, some people believe that at first we went to the moon, we didn't think much of these things. We went back several times. The last time we went, we got a warning. As the story goes, the aliens issued a threat to the astronauts in some capacity. And the astronauts then did.
Where does he get this? Let's check in with the chat. It's 5:20. We'll check in with the chat for a moment. We are live over on YouTube, on X.com, on Rumble.com, on Odyssey, and on Pilled.net. Mary Kate Delvey in the chat on YouTube. Welcome. Had a 10 out of 10 this week. Well done. Good for you. Sounds like it was a good week. If you could, hit the like button, share a link to the show. Tim's about to tell you why he thinks aliens are real. I don't disagree. That they control the perimeter of our Earth. Again, if they are real and they're better and superior to us, then that could be. In fact, you'd have to assume so. You'd have to wonder why they wouldn't also be here on Earth. Maybe they just hide themselves for our own sake. They don't want to drive us crazy. Every time they interact with us, we go cuckoo, so they just keep themselves hidden and make sure that we stay on this Earth and don't go anywhere else. Don't draw attention. Tim's going to say that from his time working with chickens, he thinks that this is what the aliens are doing to us. And then I'd want to know, what are the eggs in this analogy? If the metaphor is that we are the chickens on the farm and the aliens are the farmer, then what are they getting? What are they farming out of us? I want to know. Let me know in the chat.
The F out. And then Russians intercepted these messages. Indeed. I have to wonder, though, you know, there are some people that say that aliens have been in contact with us for a very, very long time. Let me pull up the documents. We actually have the website. I'll show you this in a second. There are some people that say that, let me see if they've got metamaterial photos. I think they did release some of the metamaterial photos. There are some people believe that aliens have been in contact with humans for a long time. That's why I talk about chicken coop theory. The chicken coop hypothesis is that humans are effectively an animal colony. Think about it this way. What's a good example of an animal? Blue horseshoe crabs, right? We want their blood because we use it for medical purposes, or scorpion venom. You extract this from them, their bodies make it. Let's say that you needed copper wire. Copper wire is useful. You might not need all that much of it, but it's nice to have. Think about it this way. With these animals that create things we need, their blood, we farm them, we harvest them. Chickens lay eggs. We take it and we eat it. Now look at it this way. Humans refine elements. So if you were an advanced alien species, would you do the manual labor to smelt metals and extract certain elements? Electrolysis to split water into hydrogen? Why would you do it? You got a bunch of critters down here on Earth doing it. As long as they stay in order and don't fight, they are making things you need. That's chicken coop theory. That the universe is vast, aliens exist, and we can't detect them, or maybe we can, but the reason why we can't do much, we don't see them, we don't know about them, is just like the chicken coop we got outside that I got. The chickens lay the eggs, I want the eggs, they can't leave. We keep them safe. What if there exists a massive galactic federation? Life is abundant in the universe, but humans are chickens. We're not smart enough. We're smart, not smart enough. We're not perceptive enough. And so the aliens are just like, listen, we have Earth quarantined effectively. You say quarantined, but caged, like a chicken coop. The humans can live their lives. They're happy. They have families. They do whatever. And a byproduct of what they do is raw materials we need. So they farm them. That means that when humans escape the coop, they get back in. When the chickens break out of the coop, we had one rooster. He kept jumping over the wall. I'd wake up in the morning a few years ago, and there he would be walking around in the yard. And I'd walk over, I'd pick him up, and I'd chuck him back in. And then he would go blah, 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 and make funny noises. Homeboy just wanted to explore the stars. And then one morning I walked over, and there was blood and a trail of feathers. Fox got him. You know, I'm proud of him. I'm sad that he died. He's a silly little rooster. And actually, to be honest, the only reason we spared his life is because he was adventurous. We actually had 13 roosters, and so we ate them. They were delicious. My wife made a rooster chili, and everyone loved it and annihilated it right when she brought it in. Yes, those were the days. But one of the roosters, we kept a handful. I think we kept like 3 or 4. One of them, I forgot his name actually, but he kept jumping out. We named him because he was escaping, and we were like, this guy's got chutzpah. And then he died.
Are we supposed to doubt that Tim Pool is hiding a yarmulke under that hat? When he uses words like chutzpah and says, "Oh, my wife prepared a rooster chili. It was so good, everyone devoured it right away." Sounds pretty Jewish.
But you know what? He lived. He lived. And that's more than you can say for many of these roosters. So think about it this way. When he would escape, we'd be like, you're going to get killed. Go back in. Go back in. And I wonder if that's what is really going on with the moon. The humans go to the moon, and the aliens that farm Earth are like, the little critters escaped. They jumped out of the Earth, and they landed on the moon. Guys, you're going to attract predators. They're advanced alien races. They will come and they will eat you. Okay? They will destroy your planet and extract all of your valuable minerals, which we need. Get back. Go back. And we're not smart enough to really understand what's going on. So we describe it in a rudimentary way. What if aliens keep us here because we do labor they need? They can extract resources whenever they want without us knowing and protect us. I love my chickens. I don't want them to die. We had one chicken. Her name is Sarah Avenberg. That's what we named them. And she got really sick. Brought her to a vet, and the vet was like, chicken's going to die. And we were like, the chicken can't die. And they were like, well, we can give the...
Took his chicken to a vet? Named it a human name? I don't want to know what other than eggs he's taking from that bird. Hit the like button, share a link to the show. I don't know. Are we done with Tim Pool? I feel like we might be done with Tim Pool in a minute here. If you could, though, make sure that you have not already. If you have not already, then hit the like button. I'm missing a couple.
Chicken medicine, but it's a chicken. You can just make more of them. And I was like, no. It was $1,000 to save that chicken's life. I don't know if she's still alive, but she lived.
He spent $1,000 of the hard-earned YouTube bucks, the YouTube money, the YouTube dollars. He spent $1,000 to save the life of a chicken, to prolong the death of a chicken. And he doesn't know if she's still alive. That should tell you something. Okay, well, we'll move on. It's just a little silly. It's all a little silly. If you go over to the Department of Defense, Department of War website, you'll see the page that Tim Pool was just showing you. And now we can walk through it at our leisure. Here, this is just release 1. There will be more releases, I'm sure, in months or weeks or days to come. Do you think it'll be sooner or later? I would assume maybe never, but this is release 1. This says, in response to President Donald J. Trump's directive for transparency on U.S. government information regarding unidentified anomalous phenomenon. It used to be aerial phenomenon. Now it's just anomalous because they go in the water. The Department of War, with support from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, is overseeing government-wide efforts to expeditiously find, review, and identify, declassify, and publicly release unresolved UAP-related records and historical documents in the federal government's possession. This is an unprecedented historic undertaking that requires coordination between dozens of agencies and review of tens of millions of records. Give them all to us. They're ours. As citizens of this country, the government doesn't have the right to just withhold records that we have requested and that the president signed to release. But we're going to go through tens of millions of records and then just give you the final product. Sound fair? Sounds like what they did with the Epstein files, which is why I'm not having a lot of hope. This continues. Coordination between dozens of agencies to review tens of millions of records, many existing only on paper, spanning many decades. Given the scope of this task, the Department of War will be releasing new materials on a rolling basis as they are discovered and declassified, with tranches posted every few weeks. Right. Just 2 more weeks for more UFO proof. Did you get any this week? No. Just a lot of... The materials archived here are unresolved cases, meaning the government is unable to make a definitive determination on the nature of the observed phenomenon. So you're even admitting, like, we don't even know that any of this is real. It's just rumor, it's speculation, it's hearsay, But we'll give you everything we got. And because it's the U.S. government, they've been doing it for decades. Coming up with just, memorandums and little scribbles on pieces of napkin, folded into an agent's inner coat, and we're going to hear all about it. Here, cleared for release. The Department of War is in lockstep with President Trump to bring unprecedented transparency regarding our government's understanding of unidentified anomalous phenomenon. These files, hidden behind classifications, have long fueled justified speculation. Interesting. Justified speculation. And it's time the American people see it for themselves. This release of declassified documents demonstrates the Trump administration's earnest commitment to unprecedented transparency. That's from the Department of War Secretary Pete Hegseth. So you can see there are pages and pages and pages. How many? It looks like at least 17 pages. Fun number, but not really significant. We can look at the first section. I think I popped it up to be this one, right? And this is what we see. In this one document, there are 184 pages of this PDF. So it's very clear we're not going to get through nearly all of any of these things. But we're going to scan and skim through because it's of interest. Here we have, we have a title on some of these things. I've tried to kind of skim and proofread some. They don't have it all that well organized, as you can imagine, from this FBI and this Director of War, Pete Hegseth. I don't think there's a lot of organization to this. Number one, I did look at each of these and say, did they even go the extra step to like give us a different cover page on each of these? And they did. But I had to double check because they all look very similar. I was like, wait a second. Is this AI? Did AI come up with each of these? And we still may find out that that's the case. So this was the first one. All of these are supposed to be timed from 1947 through 1968 and beyond. But there's, like I said earlier, letters to and from, and in this case, J. Edgar Hoover. This letter to Mrs. Levi J. Dow. As I've told you, the Dow Chemical Michigan UFO swamp landing story that piqued his interest. That's what this is referencing. Mrs. Levi J. Dow, Goffston, New Hampshire. Dear Mrs. Dow, your letter on August 31st with enclosures has been received. and I appreciate the interest which prompted you to write. In response to your inquiry, this Bureau is strictly as an investigative agency of the federal government, and as such, neither makes evaluations nor draws conclusions as to the nature or integrity of any organization, publication, or individual. The FBI director in 1966 was saying, as a government agency, we don't make evaluations of the character or integrity of any organization, publication, or individual. That's certainly changed. Today, Kash Patel is only doing that. That's his number one job, is to make determinations and draw conclusions and evaluations on the integrity of certain organizations and people and individuals. That's his whole job. And you'll know because that's what he does in the media virtually every day. He continues. This is Hoover's letter. I am sorry I cannot be of assistance to you. However, you may be sure your communication will be a matter of record. So Hoover was very interested, and he was fielding interest from others. Here from I guess this is to J. Edgar Hoover, from Mrs. Levi J. Dow and Mrs. Florence J. Dow. It's just very interesting to see letters coming to the FBI head saying, we want to know more about all of these things. In July 1966, here from the Flying Saucer Convention in Reno, Nevada. This is 19 years after the crash in Roswell, the Roswell crash, and people are having conventions, a lot like you've seen in TV and movies. This is the Amalgamated Flying Saucers Club of America. It's like the Rotary Club, but for people who look up. And it continues. This is their whole little pamphlet. So the FBI sent someone to go and see what there was to see. To go and look and see what are these UFO heads so panicked about. What kind of photos do they have? Do they have any real information? Are they just creating things in their mind? Because that is also one way to see the UFOs, as we'll get to. Okay, so this continues. Clippings from the Oakland Tribune. Civil Defense Director watches a flying saucer. They have government officials quoted in newspapers talking about this. Then we have this memorandum from the director of the FBI. I'm sorry, this is to the director of the FBI from SAC Los Angeles. So we're going to find out what SAC refers to, but this is to the director of the FBI on the issue on the subject of flying saucers, International, official journal of the Amalgamated Flying Saucers Club of America. The Philadelphia division of letter dated 9/22/66, furnished by the Los Angeles division with number 24 dated July 1966, entitled Flying Saucers International, which is the official journal that we just looked through. The Philadelphia division received the magazine from Mr. Jarvis H. Cooper from the IRS, with the address there, subscribed to the magazine because his son had exhibited an interest in flying saucers and outer space. He said that on pages 2 and 3 of that issue was an article which he believed expounded the Communist Party line. So the FBI was looking into people who were interested in UFOs because they were potentially communists. That's of interest. Isn't that funny? The IRS guy orders the article or orders the magazine because his son says, I like flying saucers. They get it. And he says, I'm proofreading it for my son. And on pages 2 and 3, they sounded like commies. So I'm turning them in. For the information for the Bureau, the international headquarters of the Amalgamated Flying Saucers Club of America is located at 2004 North Hoover Street, Los Angeles, California. The article on pages 2 and 3 were allegedly written by Master Kalanli Ratan, head of the plant Corendor, which was received. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Can you see that the FBI did not even buy it? 20 years after the crash in Roswell, we're told. And the FBI is only looking into reports of flying saucers because the ideology is really cover for communism. Interesting. Here to Mr. Paul L. Wright from J. Edgar Hoover. It's another one of these, hey, you were asking about UFOs. I got your letter. Thanks. I'll put it along with all of my other letters in the UFO file. With respect to your inquiry, matters pertaining to the sightings of UFOs are not within the jurisdiction of the FBI. Inasmuch as your communication is of interest to another governmental agency, I am referring a copy of it to Director of Special Investigations, the Inspector General, Department of the Air Force. Ooh. So the Air Force Inspector General is going to be receiving all the letters asking about UFOs. Because maybe, as I've said before, the Air Force guy talks to the FBI guy and says, criminy, if a lot of Americans are seeing shit in the sky that we do not know about, maybe we need to up our Air Force abilities. Maybe our radars aren't so great. Maybe our enemies are superior in a way that we don't yet know, and we don't want to get nuked. Or worse. So they're referring it up the flagpole, but they're not actually taking it all that seriously at the FBI. Classic FBI. Here from the Office of the Director. Oh, I'm sorry. This is to... That's Paul Wright's letter to the FBI Director. Okay, moving on. Can you see that what I got so far in this first one, and we got a little further than this on the skimming for the stream, it's just that it's letters from Hoover telling people it's not his purview, it's not his jurisdiction, it's not his reason to ask. And it's always a different reason, too. Here, this one says, in response to your inquiry, the policy of the Bureau regarding the investigation of UFOs has not changed since I wrote to you last. Also, it is contrary to my long-standing policy to express any opinions on such matters. Really? Again, we've fallen far from the great days of J. Edgar Hoover, when our current and many of our recent directors of the FBI, CIA, NSA, etc., are happy to go on the media and go on the nightly news, primetime news, evening news, and tell you all about what they think about different people. They're happy to tell you. Before, he wouldn't even answer a simple, straightforward question about UFOs. Now, they're happy to go out and get their 15 minutes every day. All right, more. More letters from UFO heads. So let's move on. This is this is section 2 here. This is the second envelope. The first one was mostly letters from and to the FBI. Let's see. Another memorandum on flying discs and saucers from San Francisco to the director of the FBI. Reference is made to my letter to the Bureau dated July 28, 1947, entitled as above, forwarding a copy to a report furnished to me by Lieutenant Colonel Donald Springer, A2, 4th Air Force, Hamilton Field, California, setting forth the results of inquiries made by his office concerning the reported sightings of flying discs. As a further interest to the Bureau in this regard, there are... I don't even know what that word is. I can't read it. There are others. There are omitted herewith, maybe it says, photostatic copies. There are these omitted here, whatever. Photostatic copies of 3 letters dated August 4th, 1947 and entitled Investigation of Flying Saucers, furnished to me by Major William R. Graham, Deputy AC of SA-2, Army Air Force, Hamilton Field, California, who is acting in the absence of Lieutenant Colonel Donald Springer, mentioned earlier, enclosing copies of reports of additional reported sightings of flying discs by persons in Oregon and Arizona, together with the results of their investigations in that regard. It is noted that these investigations were conducted prior to the time Bureau instructions were issued that our own Bureau would conduct inquiries into the reported sights of flying discs. So what happened between 1966 and 1947 that caused the Bureau to stop looking into to UFOs entirely? Why would the FBI in 1947 be taking on these reports, but by 1966 be completely hands-off and telling the public, everyone who knew Hoover enough to write him a letter, he would have a teletype back to them saying, not our department, not our monkey, not our circus, stop asking. Seems strange. August 8th, 1947. What was the date of that one? Hold on. I'm zooming out. Gonna grab a book and take a look at what the actual date was. I'm doing a little bit of homework on the fly here. Where and when? The first week of July 1947. Yeah, wasn't it July 4th? Was it not Independence Day 1947? The crash in Roswell. Yeah, so about a month after that crash, we're seeing in Arizona, in Oregon, and I'm guessing in other states, because this is just from the office in San Francisco. I'm going to bet that there are other field offices in the Pacific Northwest that are also getting these calls, that are also getting these reports. I could be wrong, but it feels like that's probably what was going on. So July 4, we have Roswell crash. Now, we're all told that it was just a crash of what we are, considering to be the public rumors, the speculation is a flying saucer that was crashed. And this book, The Day After Roswell, makes the case that these things were being seen all around the country and around our naval bases, and not our naval bases, our Air Force bases, in particular, any military installations in the Pacific Northwest and in the southwestern U.S. And the government, before the crash, was thinking, what could it be? Is it possible that it's an enemy to the east? Not necessarily Japan, but they were worried, like, okay, are we going to have like a Pearl Harbor, but worse, with nukes? And it's right after World War II, so we're kind of on edge, thinking it's peacetime, really hoping, and yet we're seeing these things buzzing our airfields, buzzing our installations in the desert. Secret installations that people still don't know about, that were built during World War II, are being buzzed by these flying saucers. And so, yeah, they are panicked, and they're reporting it to the FBI through the military in 1947. But by 66, again, as we showed, they're not interested. Here, this is January 26th, 1965. Your letter on January 20th was received. The FBI has not conducted an investigation, as you mentioned. We would not be looking into UFOs. That's what the FBI has told everyone forever. We can see all the letters. The policy of the Bureau regarding any investigation of UFOs has not changed. So what had changed from then in 1947 when they were taking these reports from all around the country? Again, the Day After Roswell book makes the argument that these things were being seen and that they conformed a radar array. We have different radar fields that are scanning the skies. And then these guys at the computer, the cubicle, are looking to see the radar monitor in real time. They're seeing these things pop up all over. And so someone in our government or in our military, or both, there's not really much of a distinction, has the bright idea to change the frequencies or change the output or to triangulate these radar arrays with that radar array. And they do this while these craft are flying, and they down one of them. So when we think, how did they just have a UFO crash in the desert? That makes no sense. How was there a crash in Roswell with 5 passengers, 4 dead and 1 that was kept alive? How does all that make sense as it is reported in the government documents? Well, the narrative given by the people who were there and claim that this is true said that they downed one of these by manipulating a series of radar arrays and tricking it into essentially crashing itself. If that's true, wonderful. If it's not, makes for a great story in a book. And I read it, and it was a good book. So these things, it kind of seems like, okay, so we're seeing them all through the 40s after the war. And for years, we're trying to figure out how are we going to deal with them. People are seeing them all across the country. The military in 1947 finally is able to down one. And this is if you believe that the government was able to do it. You might believe that one of these things decided to give itself up, make contact. You know, we drop a couple astronauts into orbit around the moon, and then they send a lander down, and a couple of them get out and bounce around for a couple hours. Could the aliens watching that think, oh, they're lost. They don't know what to do? Like Tim Pool said, should we just help them, put them back in the little capsule and send them on their way? Put them back over there. Throw them back over the fence. So are human beings in our government so haughty to look up and to see these things and think, my God, we got to take one of these down? And so they take one down? Or do the aliens let them take one down? Do the aliens recognize, again, this is making a lot of assumptions, do the beings in the aircraft recognize that, hey, the humans are changing the pattern on the ground. They're trying to manipulate. They're trying to get our attention. And do they just go, drop in, let's see, and crash? I doubt it. I think it's a combination of something like that. I don't believe there was nothing in Roswell, but I'm leery. I'm skeptical to believe anything that we're reading in these documents as fact. Here from Newark, New Jersey, to the director of the FBI, August 13, 1947. So just weeks after the Roswell crash. Again, that was July 4, 1947. Reference is made to the teletype from the Newark division of the Bureau, dated August 4th, 1947, stating that the flying disc had been reported to have been seen at Hackensack, New Jersey, on the 3rd of August by one Charles Casellia Jr. and William Truex. This is a fun one. Casellia Jr., at the address in Hackensack, upon interview by Special Agent Arthur F. Williams by this division, stated that on August 3rd, he had been standing with William Truex, a soldier stationed at Fort Dix, observing a ham radio rig atop a 2-story house in Simmons Avenue in Hackensack. Bad things happen in Hackensack. But this one was a good one. In approximately 7:45 p.m., they were in this vicinity for the purpose of meeting Truex's girlfriend, one Joyce McFarland. So they're sitting up in the overwatch of the second floor. They're playing with a ham radio. They're waiting on a girl to show up. Truex comments to Casellia that a child had apparently lost his balloon. What makes you say that? Casellia looks up, and about a block or a half a block away, he notices a round black object moving from south to north, and then east of the stop where he and Truex were standing. Casellia noticed it, and it was moving too fast to be any ordinary balloon, but he could not discern whether it was globular in form or a disc. And man, when I tell you that we have problems today trying to figure out if things are globular or disc-shaped, you ain't kidding. We still have the same problem. He said it was about 30 or 40 inches in diameter, moving north in a horizontal plane about 200 yards above the top of the hill at Summit Avenue and Simmons Avenue. It proceeded at a steady rate, emitted no rays, and was moving fast enough to require them to turn their heads steadily in order to follow it. Truex's girlfriend came about 15 seconds after they first sighted it. I thought they were going to say as soon as it was gone, she showed up. I'm like, hello, she is not from here. She goes to another school. They pointed it out to her. She said, it looks like a bird on the horizon. It's so small. Then it faded out of sight shortly after. Casellia said that a line drawn along its apparent course of flight would go from the vicinity of Bendix, Fort Bendix, New Jersey, to a point west of Westwood, New Jersey. Casellia also said that a man on the porch across the street noticed it, pointed it out to the woman. Casellia said that this man seemed excited, but did nothing about it. As you would. Casellia said he was positive it was no optical illusion. He was not facing into the sun when he saw the object clearly. He also said that he would have thought nothing of it except for the speed at which it were traveling. Seems unearthly, seems unreal. Miss Joyce McFarland, at her address, why does the FBI always want to know where people are at? Upon interview by Special Agent Williams, stated that the event in question occurred at about 7:30 in the evening on Sunday the 3rd. She said that she was in the house when Casellia or Truex called to her. She went out immediately and they pointed out the object in question. She saw it just before it disappeared over the horizon, but she declared that it was in view from the time for approximately 1 minute. She said it was round and silver bluish in color and appeared to be revolving. She said she did not recall making any comment that it might have been a bird and herself had no idea of what it could have been. In view of the distance from which she noticed it, she said it could not have been more than 6 inches in diameter, but would have been much larger if she had been near to it. Depth perception is tough on all of us. Miss McFarland said that she had never seen anything like it before. Yeah, I mean, imagine you're looking at the back of a bird as it's flying, but then it turns and it's also still turning, and it's always the back of the bird. It's very strange. She said that across the street, the Booths, mother and daughter, the women that were referred to in the other paragraph, were the only people sitting on the porch, and she herself did not notice anyone pointing toward the object in question. The only other person around, to her knowledge, was Gloria Truex, the sister of William Truex, who remained in the house and did not see the object at all. Maybe she was the real target. Mrs. Winfield S. Booth, Winnie Booth, stated that she was on the porch in the evening in question with her mother, but did not notice any unusual object in the sky, nor had any man been present there to point out any object in question. The following information was received from Truex through interview with Special Agent T. Howard Waldron. Private William A. Truex from the 2nd Battalion, 47th Infantry Regiment, 9th Division at Fort Dix, New Jersey, advised to his identity. He went to school, he enlisted. Here he was standing outside the home of his girlfriend, Miss Joyce McFarland, in Hackensack, New Jersey, accompanied by Charles Casellia. Charles seems like he's up to no good, but he is in Hackensack, New Jersey, who is his sister's fiance. Well, that's why he's trouble. He said that he and Casellia were looking at the radio antenna on the home near the address where they noticed an object about 2 to 3 foot in diameter moving rapidly about 200 yards off the ground. Truex said he at first thought it was a child's balloon, but then he noticed there was no wind and the object had no strings to it. He decided it was something else. He stated the object was moving in a steady, straight path going north, and he said there was no exhaust or indication of any motive power or for the object. Motive power for the object? Okay. 1947 lingo, motive power. Truex said that they observed the object for 15 or 20 seconds. He could not give a description of the object's color or the material it was composed of, but said it looked more like a large, flat child's cup than anything that he could think of, as the object was oval on the top and it came to a point on the bottom side. Like an image of a triangle or a pyramid flying upside down. Truex said that Casellia stated, maybe it's a flying saucer. Well, that would get anyone excited, wouldn't it? If in 1947, just weeks after the Roswell crash, your buddy goes, hey, I got another one, you'd be excited too. He said he'd never seen anything like it moving through the air quite like this object. He had no idea where it had come from. Truex stated that neither he nor Casellia had anything to drink that night, and there was sufficient light for them to observe the object very clearly. The flying disc, quote unquote, was reported by Casellia to Sergeant James Perrone of the Hackensack Police Department. Sergeant Perrone advised the writer of this that this department had taken no further action, nor had they received any reports of the object in question from any other sources, and noted that no other police department in the vicinity had had the same attention brought. Okay, so whatever. They don't want to believe the boys in Hackensack. That's fine. But we'll believe these. From the FBI director, urgently. Read this date. 8/5/47. You with me? First week of August. Just weeks after the Roswell crash, while all of these sightings are still happening all across the country at the military bases, we have this. August 5th, 1947. Unknown subjects Raymond Edward Land and Mrs. Laura Lane. Informants, flying disc, miscellaneous. Information received from Dow Chemical Company in Midland, Michigan. That on July 10th, this past last July 10th, Raymond Edward Lane, an employee of Dow Chemical Company, at about employee of Dow and subsidiary since about 1922, brought some material to their physics lab stating that about 5:15 p.m. July 9 last, he and his wife, Laura Lane, she didn't take his last name? Oh, she did. It's Edward Lane and Laura Lane. This person who typed this needs to go back to typing class. Seriously, all these typos? And you work for the feds? Come on. I guess the typos are not the worst thing that we can see the feds doing now. I'm sure the feds are going to have their nightly stream tonight on Rumble at midnight. If you didn't see, Dan Bilzerian called out Nick Fuentes as being a fed, and it's shaken up the conservative social media people. That's all. That's all it really is. I would say Nick is not really a federal informant as much as he's a federal asset. Nick Fuentes is a federal asset, let's be honest. He is an informant telling you all the things that the feds want you to think, want you to believe. They don't care if it's, rough around the edges. They're fine with that. It actually helps. It makes you look discreditable. You discredit yourself when you go out and say nigger a bunch, and then when you complain about Israel, they say, well, that guy's a racist, and it all wins for them. He's making money. He's fine. All right, well, but so Edward Lane married Laura Lane. This person just can't type very well. He worked at Dow. He's walking around on Dow property. He and his wife walking in a field owned by Dow, and about 100 feet away, they heard a puff. They heard a puff. And then they turned and they saw a ball of white about the size of a bushel bacon, burning about a foot off the ground. The fire died out immediately, and Lane later scooped up about a 3-inch area of fused sand into a can. What kind of can? It was a beer can. We were out there getting lit. And we saw a little phosphorus deposit, and it blew up. We're in a swamp area, and the chemicals from the Dow company nearby. And you thought it was an alien? Could have been. I don't know. I don't believe it. I think it was probably a little phosphorus deposit. Had a little whoopsies near the swamp. We saw a white flash, and the guy that I'm with, working at the physics department of the chemical company, collected samples and brought it in. And so we're classifying that with the UFO files instead of looking at it for what it was. Hey, you had some swamp gas and a little bit of a little swamp fog. Some phosphorus came up out of the ground. Who cares? You're on a date. Who cares? Open the picnic basket. Lay out the blanket. You're on a swamp. Both complainants had been interviewed. After the fire died out immediately, they took some samples back to the lab. Raymond told, so let's see, Raymond is who? Raymond Edward Lane, the man. I was calling him Edward the whole time. Raymond telling substantially the same story, but the wife reluctant to talk and very indefinite on what happened. Yeah, she doesn't want to be on record having said she saw, an alien depart this world. There are marked discrepancies in their stories. Dow authorities considered the story fantastic, but have examined the material and state the contents to be ordinary sand, not radioactive, but the sand is giving off an ammonia gas. Okay? You also found a small silver nugget, almost pure except for the sand that was collected with it, mixed in, not radioactive. Melted into or around the sand, which gives off ammonia. So melted sand giving off an ammonia odor. Little droplets of silver melted in the sand with some other grayish color in material, which is radioactive. So what are they using? Like mercury? Are they using quicksilver? What is leaving behind little droplets of melted silver in the sand that smells like it's from hell? This is a level of radioactivity extremely low, and the employee formerly employed by government at Los Alamos the Los Alamos Project, well, that's something. He works at Dow Chemical. He's on a date in the swamp, but he did used to work at Los Alamos. States that fused sand has some characteristics of Los Alamos sand, but not believed to be the same. Maybe you know how sometimes your work just goes home with you? That's Raymond's life. Raymond Lane used to work at Los Alamos, comes over to Dow Chemical because at Los Alamos they might create and invent a type of alloy or a polymer or something that is then used in the application that is weaponized through the military. And so he works from Los Alamos and then takes a contract at the chemical company to work the technology at the manufacturer. Makes sense. That way the manufacturer has a connection, a conduit to the actual invention of the tech at Los Alamos. That's why he's there. But they kind of bury that in the second page, huh? He worked at Los Alamos, and this is basically the same thing that used to happen in the desert there, but it's a little different. Raymond Lane, known to have in his possession small quantities of luminous paint, radioactive, to be an amateur photographer, to have limited knowledge of chemistry and physics from employment at Dow, Lane described as very peculiar. Surely he's antagonistic to plant protection officers interested in photography and electricity. Lane is white, born in 1902 at Free Soil, Michigan. He stands at 5'9", 1.5 inch. Come on, man. He can't just be 5'10", like me. 145 pounds, dark brown hair, partly bald. This guy's got nothing. Served U.S. Army 1918 to 1923. Convicted for burglary, serving 60 days. Yeesh. Neither party admits the story is a prank, but Lane has mentioned flying saucers, discs, and rockets. On an interview, Lane was reluctant to discuss the matter, and neither he nor his wife were able to locate the exact location where the material was found. Army Air Force's intelligence at Selfridge Field, Michigan, have been advised. Sue tell if Bureau desires material forwarded to FBI laboratory for examination. What does Sue tell? Are they going to go and extract the evidence from the people? Very weird. So one couple in Michigan thought that they had seen flying discs. And this Raymond Edward Lane guy had talked a lot about them. He had worked at Los Alamos. He then goes over to work at Dow Chemical. He's talking to all the people. He's flippant with the security guards. He kind of acts like he owns the place because he's already kind of got an in. He's coming from Los Alamos. The boss that he answers to is not the same boss at Dow that all the other people at Dow answer to. So he's kind of already a made man. And then he's there. He goes out with his wife. He claims an event happens. He collects some sand. Smelly. It's swamp sand. They're outside of a chemical company, and they're in a swamp in Michigan and Midland. That's what it is. Midland, Michigan is a swamp. It's like a bog area. It's very flat and gross. So there's going to be some swamp deposits of phosphorus and other things, and it's going to you could find a smelly part of the land. I'm not surprised that he could scoop up some gross sand. And they said that it was a melted silver nugget broken into little droplets in the sand. Did he just bring out some mercury with him and mix it into the sand? That's what it seems to be. Some of this stuff seems like it's just a lot like the Epstein files. Imagine if one of these said, one of the flying saucers was seen hovering over Trump Tower in, give it a date, 1990. 2004, Trump Tower had a UFO over it. And maybe it's entirely fake, and maybe it's not even a real story, but it's just a teletype. Someone wrote it down. That's kind of how I'm reading these, and it's the same way I read the Epstein files. There was a taxi driver who said that, actually, the story was, if I'm going to get it right, the report came from someone who rode in a limo who was overhearing the limo driver on the phone talking about a different drive he had taken, a job in which the person in the back of the limo was none other than Donald Trump, and that person, Donald Trump, was having a conversation on the phone about a girl who had had her head chopped off or blown off and her body dumped into Lake Michigan. It's a telephone story through the lens of, did the limo driver smoke crack in the morning? Is he just, yapping? And so some of these teletypes, like we read with Casellia and his girlfriend McFarland and the other person he's with, they see something. No one else sees it. There's no other story. There's no other frame of reference or evidence for it, which is fine. I'm not saying that means it's fake. But it also means that we can't believe it on its face is a fact. We just have to believe that it was claimed. All we have is that the document was produced. We don't even know that these people are real people, that this story was ever real. Again, the frame that I'm working with through all of these things, the frame that I'm looking at all of these things through, is that the government has AI. It's far more superior than any of the AI that we have consumer availability to, access to. So could the government not just say, AI, come up with what appear to be credible teletypes from, and then they give a list of the people that they are okay with having letters sent from, like the FBI director and others, people who are dead who won't have estates who argue, because they wouldn't know any better anyway. Create some fake letters, create some fake documents so that we can release them to the public and have it be only things that the public would have otherwise expected to see. Single, solitary points of evidence that cannot be backed up, eyewitness testimony, people writing in and calling in to the FBI saying they saw stuff. Flying discs cited by a Mrs. Robert Little. This is a security matter. At the Chicago Herald, the American Today reported that Little of 6327 Harper Avenue, this is Mrs. Little, reported seeing a disc 3:30 a.m. today sailing above Lake Michigan off Jackson Park Beach. Little was unavailable for interview today. Her father-in-law, Joseph Reiner, at this address, advised that she saw a disc over a month ago when she was just 18. No further inquiry contemplated. So the father-in-law says, yeah, she saw one when she was 18 and now it's back visiting her again. Is the FBI supposed to take all of these super seriously? You read that like I did. No follow-up interview contemplated. We're not even going to go and ask her. She says that a balloon is following her. We're done. That's how they took it. That's the seriousness with which the FBI took a single report like that. And yet, when you're looking at all of them, they took tons of these reports. This is a longer one. Colonel Carl Golbranson of the Intelligence Division of the War Department. Back to the War Department. We were at the Defense Department for a while, but we're back again. Advising, this is on July 21st, 1947, 3 weeks after the Roswell crash, 2.5 weeks. Advising Special Agent Reynolds of the Liaison Section that the War Department has received a telegram dated in New York, July 5th, as it follows. For further details concerning flying discs, suggest immediate contact for Mr. Richard Shaver, Lily, Lake, Illinois, who may have important information concerning their origin. So on July 5th, the day after the Roswell crash, we have this teletype. Interesting. Let me see that. I'm going to make sure I get this totally right. We have this quote from July 5th, 1947. For further details concerning flying discs, suggest immediate contact for Mr. Richard F. Shaver, Lily Lake, Illinois, who may have important information concerning their origin. Colonel Goldbranson furnished Mr. Reynolds with a copy of the memorandum entitled Report on Flying Saucers, dated July 7, 1947, addressed to the commanding general of the 32nd American Air Force Base Unit, Bowling Field, Washington, D.C., from John Schindler, Jr. A copy of the report, which is attached to the memorandum. The attached memorandum sets forth information and statistics regarding 2 reportings of incidents of flying discs. There is also attached here to a map of Illinois River area, which was furnished to Mr. Reynolds by Colonel Goldbranson. Show us on the map where the aliens touched you. Colonel Goldbranson stated that according to this map, the incidents reported in the attached memorandum are in the general vicinity of Lily Lake, which was given as the address for Mr. Richard F. Shaver in the anonymous telegram received by the War Department. Interesting. So a guy up in Illinois in the river system somewhere sends a telegram to the War Department saying, I know where these things come from. Come find me. That's funny. Very, very Huckleberry Finn of him. Colonel Goldbranson advised that in view of the fact that the observation of the flying saucers was made on July 7 and the date of the unsigned telegram is July 5th, together with the proximity of Lily Lake and the points of the objects being observed, he desires the Bureau conduct some investigation of the Schaefer guy to determine whether or not he has any information pertaining to the origin of the flying saucers. Yeah, he probably does. He's writing to the War Department saying, I know where these things are coming from. And he's in the area that they're being seen, and he sends the telegram 2 days before they're being reported. How else can you take that? The recommendation is that the field be directed to make inquiries regarding Schaefer, and if deemed advisable, interview him regarding any information that he may have relative to flying discs. The results of any information investigation should be forwarded to the liaison section for delivery to the Intelligence Division of the War Department. See attachments. So we have reports. We don't have a photo. Not in this one. Not yet. Let's see. Do we have any photos in this? More reports of flying discs. Here's the map. Ooh. Looks a little flat. Doesn't look globular. Want to see something fun? No. No. Oh, I gotta zoom in more. Check that out. Hey, look, I can see my house from here. We're just alien hunting. That's all. That's all we're doing. So Lily Lake is near Elgin in Kane County, near Dundee, Illinois, south of Antioch, south of McHenry. So it literally is like Huckleberry Finn shit. Coming up to Mississippi towards Chicago, North Chicago way. So they're getting reports of UFOs here, where the X is, above my head there. That's where they're getting reports, right there. Tim Pool was just talking an hour ago on the show about the sightings all around O'Hare over here. And I've sure as shit seen them right over here. So can we just say that that lady's report where she thought she might have seen UFOs flying around and that she thinks she might have seen one following her when she was 18, that's probably real. Probably a real thing. Have you never just gone out and stared at the stars and said, okay, now one of you move, and then watched it happen? It does. We'll continue on. There's got to be photos, right? Let's jump over to the X and we'll see if I can find some photos. of the UFO phenomenon. Hope you're doing well, too. If you would, hit the like button, share a link to the show. Let me bounce over and see that we're still live. We're live on YouTube. We're live on X. We're live on Pilled.net, Rumble, and Odyssey. Check into the chat. Rusty Shackleford is here saying, I'm still not getting notifications. Well, I don't know what to tell you. Are your notifications on? It's a great reminder. Thank you, Rusty. Did you turn your notifications on? Have you followed? Are you subscribed? And then did you take your notification pills? Check that out. Okay. Why is this up? That's terrible. UFO. Beautiful. This is what I want to see. So here are some videos released in the files. Here's one that, because you're seeing it through a lens of FLIR camera, I wonder, what does this thing actually look like? We're seeing like not a heat signature, but that's kind of what it is. If we're seeing through a FLIR lens, they're seeing heat, but it's not infrared. It's different. It's light. They're seeing the photons. And so this is the shape that we're given when we're not seeing it with our eye. So what is this? What is it? What'd that be? Get the camera back on it, boy. It's out of focus. There you go. Hold still. Now, what is that? What does a missile look like in a FLIR camera? What does a drone look like in a FLIR camera? Do we know? Could it be that and we're just kind of being fooled with the lens trickery? What is it? What'd that be? The other thing I want to point out is we assume, like, look at this. Okay, so you see this image that's being created in the back? It starts up here and it moves this way. Like when you have an eye floater and then you try to focus on it and it moves like opposite to the direction of the eye because it is stationary and the camera is moving. Now look at the back of this. This is taken aerially, right? We see that this little stream is moving, so we know that it is at least moving some. We know the camera is moving some. Why is the background moving relative to the thing as it moves? Why is the sky darkened over here? You see this? And then as it moves, the sky brightness moves. It can't see what is that? What is that flying around behind it? Why are we getting that kind of contrast in the clouds? Make that make sense. I don't know, but they're saying that looks like an angel. Congresswoman Luna posts Ophanim right after the Pentagon declassified the eerie 8-pointed star UFO. Ophanim described a multi-eyed angel in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Here's another. An old NASA video seems to be corroborated by Trump's new UFO file. Here they're going to tell you that this is not a little, piece of metal or a little tip of a needle or something like that. This is not something suspended in a solution under a microscope. That's exactly what it is, obviously. Have you never looked at anything under a microscope? That's what this looks like. They're going to tell you this is actually being filmed from the Discovery. And we're actually looking at a piece of a satellite that was just ejected. And now we're looking at all these different UFOs swarming it. That's what we're going to be told this is.
This view showing the satellite.
You see that moving? That's what happens when you move and adjust the microscope. We're not looking out at a window through space. You're looking at something very, very small.
Again, just moving into sunrise.
And now you're increasing the focus.
81 nautical
The
miles
magnification of the lens. Do you guys remember high school biology and chemistry? That's what this is.
now from Columbia.
You guys getting the image?
Franklin, we see a long line, a couple of star-like things, and a lot of things swimming in the foreground. Can you...
Why would you say swimming if this is in space? Why would you say swimming?
Line, a couple of star-like things, and a lot of things swimming in the foreground. Can you describe what you're seeing?
Well, the long line is a tether, and there's a little bit of debris that kind of flies with us, and it's illuminated by the sun at such low angle. So there's a lot of stray light, and it's getting washed out quickly, but Quad is trying to...
And then they bump it again. Here you can see it's not a tether. It's not tethered to anything. This is not tethered to them. Did they lose a tether? They lost it? It got disconnected? It's floating away in space?
The satellite.
And so they're filming it? And then they're seeing it be swarmed? Like chum tossed into the ocean surface as you're driving by?
Again, just moving into sunrise. 81.
This is supposed to be an image off the... This is Earth, we're told. The sun behind them. And so they're seeing everything perfectly illuminated. And they're telling you this is space.
The satellite.
How does it move relative to the Earth in the corner not moving?
Again, just moving into sunrise.
Then they zoom in, and it's like it's what happens when you do a camera pan. When you zoom and move back.
81 nautical miles now from Columbia.
You guys getting the image?
Franklin, we see a long line, a couple of star-like things, and a lot of things swimming in the foreground. Can you describe what you're seeing?
Nothing.
Well, the long line is a tether, and there's a little bit of debris that kind of flies with us, and...
So what's the blinking, twinkling thing coming around and just checking them out? I'm just wondering if you needed a ride back to your shuttle. What the fuck is this? Nuts. So here's that same video again. The Pentagon UFO files show a star-shaped object moving in sharp zigzags across the sky. But also, it's only a sharp zigzag from the perspective that we're seeing it. So we could be moving, it could be moving, it could be moving less, we could be moving just as much. Here are others. Okay, this is perfect. This is all declassified UFO videos in one video. Perfect. Thank you. Do we have audio in any of these, you think? I mean, that's pretty impressive. You see some of these. Watch this one just go from the right side to the middle of the screen. Blink and you miss it. Ooh, I couldn't even catch it watching full screen. That's moving fast as hell. Click, 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 click. Damn it. That's moving real fast. You know what this needs?
All them other niggas lame and you know it now. When a real nigga hold you down, you supposed to drown. Bam. Bam.
That wasn't it anyways. What the hell? What the H? What the HH? Lordy, lordy. Do me a favor if you would, hit the like button, share a link to the show, subscribe, comment, do all the things. I wonder if, referring back to Tim Pool's analogy, his metaphor about the aliens keeping humans on Earth to farm or to otherwise control, but for what purpose? To what end? Is the Epstein class serving them? We say Epstein must have served Satan himself, that these people sell their souls to the devil. Is that this? It's possible. Or it isn't, I have no idea. Hit the like, share, link to the show. We're going to be done here in a minute. Hope you're doing well. Have a great Friday evening. I don't think we're going to get any more of these UFOs or alien releases for the next couple of days. So we have some time to go through these files. And there are at least 17 pages of PDFs to go through. So we're not going to be running out. I'll monitor the chat for a while and hang out while we watch the rest of this. We have 25 minutes of it. But if you would, hit the like, share, link to the show, jump in the chat, say hello. We're live on YouTube, x.com, hill.net, Rumble, and Odyssey. I've seen that you can do live streaming on TikTok and Instagram. I'm not interested, but I might check it out just in case we have to get competitive on which platforms we're operating on. Maybe these are not aliens at all, but it's a breakaway civilization of Nazis. It's possible. Maybe these are just the bell, the Nazi bell. Anyone familiar with that one? No? Ba-dum-bum. All right, that was it. That's all I really had to talk about. There was a whole bunch more of this stuff we can just read through, but I don't really feel like reading through a bunch of, hey, I also saw this. Pause this for a moment. Really, that's what these files seem to be. For the first 4 PDFs, bunches that I've looked at and downloaded and skimmed through, it's just this stuff. Letters from the Springer guy. Letters to the FBI. Ooh, a backwards letter. Inversion. Secret. That's all we got. It's just documents from feds back and forth saying, can you confirm what you know? I don't know anything. I don't know what you're even talking about. Confirm what you know. I don't know anything. Confirm what you're talking about. We have a report from an agent who said he talked to a guy in the field, and there was no one else with him. It was just the one guy. He saw a thing, and that's it. Kind of pathetic. It's a little sad. What in the world is this supposed to be? Is this the sand? Is this the goo that they got out of the swamp? Exhibit 6, Exhibit 7. What are all these things? Stuff to review and to research, apparently. And then to let you know what it is. This looks like volcanic rock. It looks like nothing. It looks like some shiny rock. You ever been in North Michigan? You got this shit all over the place. But apparently it's UFO rocks. From Hamilton Field, California. Official photograph from the U.S. Army Air Force. And what is it? What is this? Is this a metal sphere with two rocks near it? What the fuck are we looking at? I'm skimming for photos, and I don't see many. Thought about sending these through an AI and having the AI do a little bit of summarization, but the AI is working with the aliens to try to keep them hidden. So it's not going to tell me. It's going to find all the good stuff and hide it. Really, what I wish they had done would be to put the searchability function that they had for the Epstein files in with this dump. I wish that we had the ability to search, and maybe, I mean, you can search within a PDF, but it doesn't always work very well. We'll see. Command F. We'll just type Kennedy. None. Nada. Nothing. Because it's not even recognizing text. So that's a bummer. But check that out at your leisure. I'll pop you back over to this video. We'll replay the rest of this. And like I said, if you have any comments or anything to say, jump in the chat, say hello. Otherwise, just follow the links in the description of the video you're watching now. allmylinks.com/AmericaFloats takes you to the page where you'll find all the links to all the platforms where this channel exists in its different forms, names, and formats. I bid you adieu. Have a great weekend.
Lassie! I'll heal him. I'll heal him. I'll heal him. Meine Augen rein, Gerichtigen, aufgebaut, dass ich fleißig gewesen bin, dass ich Jahre meine Damen, dass ich mich in diesen Jahren für die Welt habe, dass ich anständig für die Zeit bin. Ja, dann will ich ein von Ihnen.